Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the following session on this Funding Box Continuity Day. We are very happy to have today to Manuela Battaglini, who is collaborating with us in several initiatives, in several projects related to the Next Generation Internet Initiative. She is a member of the advisory board of one of these projects, NGI Pointer, and recently joined us as a Next Generation Internet ambassador. And the session will be about a very interesting topic nowadays related to contact tracing. It's digital contact tracing and the future of privacy that has a lot of implications currently with the COVID-19 situation, tracking people, tracking data, and so on. And about her experience, Manuela is a data ethics expert and privacy lawyer. She is a specialist in strategic marketing and CEO of Transparent Internet. She has been working as a lawyer for 10 years. In 2008, she engaged with strategic digital marketing, where for 8 years, she worked with several big organizations such as Volkswagen, Procter & Gamble, and Laboratorios Ferrer, as with many other medium-sized companies, giving her the opportunity to work with worldwide famous advertising and communication agencies such as DDB or W. We are really proud to have her on board. I'm very happy to get her involved in this Funding Continuity Day, and nothing more to say from my side. So now, Manuela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm going to share my presentation so you can see it. Okay, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So as David introduced, so first of all, thank you so much for having me here to talk about this interesting topic. And I think that is very interesting nowadays, as you said, because of the COVID-19 situation and this pandemic. So first of all, I would like to say that all this mistrust of COVID-19 applications is a part of the normal process of adapting to any technology. So what does it mean in practical terms? So if we see this diagram that it talks about the evolution of human wealth in the last 1,000 years, we can see that since 13th century until 19th century, the wealth was absolutely the same, or the innovation was absolutely the same. We can see several countries like Italy, Sweden, Turkey, and UK, where from the life or lifestyle from 13th century, 14, 17, and 19 was almost the same. There are several reasons why this is happening. First of all, because church had a lot of power on population and didn't let people to innovate. But the second is that something very important is related with adaptation, or the human capacity of adapt to new technologies. At this time, human beings need at least between 100 and 150 years to adapt to new technologies. Or innovation. We are talking about something as simple as a bow. A bow that we see as a simple tool right now and nowadays. When it was invented, it took at least 100 years to be used as a war tool and give an innovation in defense in the countries. So once we go on time, we can see here that this line goes up on 19th century. This is because of Industrial Revolution. At this time, human beings need around 20 years to adapt to innovations, between 30 and 20. We can see this, for example, in cars or airplanes that even needed even more time. That once they were invented, human adaptability needed at least between 20 and 50 years to adapt to these new technologies and to be part of our society. But now, where we are in another completely different situation. This is a very simple diagram that it was drawn by Edward Teller, this eminent physicist. And it was made in a conversation with Thomas Friedman, this Pulitzer awarded journalist from the New York Times. And they were talking about this, which is the problem that we have in our society and technology speed. So the thing is that at the beginning, as we said at the beginning of times, the human adaptability was faster than the technology innovation, as we said before. But now we're in a moment where these two lines are crossed, that technology is going into a speed and a direction completely different to the human adaptability. And this is causing social angst. And this is because we don't have any more time to adapt to these new technologies, in the sense that nowadays we need between 7 and 8 and 10 years as a humanity to adapt to new technologies. And these new technologies we are talking about, big data, innovations, technologies, they are innovating in a speed and a direction that is going much faster than our capacity. We're talking about that they are developing in 7 years, and they are even mutating in 5 years. And if we have the capacity of adapt to these new technologies around 8 and 10 years, so we can see that they are going much faster right now. So we are talking about, as an example, Uber. So Uber, we are still not regulating Uber as a business model, and now they are talking about self-driven cars. So they are mutating as a technology, and we are not still regulating their former business model. So what is this provoking? This is provoking a growing gap between physical technologies and social technologies. Physical technologies is all the technologies that we are talking about: big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, automation, internet. And the social technologies are our universities, education, public administration, governments, law, culture. So it means that these new technologies, as they are growing and growing in this fast speed, there is a growing gap between these two physical and social technologies. So which is the solution here? So it's not easy to put a solution here, but it's true that we need technologies in our governments that they are capable of innovating as much as the big techs in our governments. And another thing, in population, in terms of population, what we need is the right of long life learning, in the sense that we have to adapt our societies to the technological rhythm and decrease this growing gap between the physical technologies and the social technologies. We are not talking about the education that we have the right to receive. No, I'm talking about technological long life learning, in a sense that as a society, and mainly the non-educated society, can adapt easily and faster to new technologies. So where are we now? So we are now in a situation that is pretty serious, that we're in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, and a new technology has came out. This is the digital contact tracing applications. And we can see that many people what is feeling is this rejection through this new technology, because what they think is that governments are collecting all their personal data, they want to manipulate us, they want to control us, and when they say we want to protect you, they say we want to control you. Well, they are right, this can happen, but on the other hand, we have to realize, as I explained before, that this rejection is part of this adaptation of population to a new technology. This is not a disruptive technology in a sense that changes our life as it is right now, like Airbnb changed, Facebook changed, Google changed, Amazon changed. This is not that disruptive, but it is a new technologies anyways. So what governments want is that their populations adapt to this new technology in just a couple of months, and maybe we're asking too much to our citizens. And that's the reason why we need a social and ethical framework around these applications, because the applications, or these COVID-19 applications, they are not a whole. They're just a part of this strategy. They are a tactical movement between the whole strategy. But let's talk about, which is the big picture here. So the big picture here is that we have to try to find this balance between the two equilibriums, or the equilibrium between the two balance. The global balance as the interest of the governments in managing and control the pandemic, and the local balance understood as the citizens and what we want and what we need. We need to feel safe in all environments of our lives. We're talking about family, leisure, social life, work, and not feel discriminated at the same time. So this is the big problem, in my opinion. This is one of the biggest problems of these COVID-19 applications of any other devices, that it can be used to discriminate. So how can we find this equilibrium, this balance between these two equilibriums? So it is difficult. And on the other hand, we have to realize that we have two big problems. First of all, that effectiveness of these applications, it is around, to be effective, it needs 60% of adaptation in the population. This was a Nature article that was talking about 60%, but another scientists from Oxford University, they say from 40% they can start to be effective. So we are talking about between 40 and 60%, but this is a lot. And we have realized that in many countries, the maximum arrives to 25%. And on the other hand, the WHO, the World Human Health Organization, said that they are really concerned about all the discriminating issues that can spread because of misuse of this application. So I'm going to talk about the paper that I wrote with Virginia Dignum, Ricardo Minuesa, Andreas Teodoro, and as I said myself, why it is necessary to develop an ethical and social framework around every COVID-19 application. And we designed 19 criterions divided in three main groups. We're talking about impact on citizens, technology, and governance. So first of all, we have to protect fundamental rights of individuals. We're talking about rights of safety, health, non-discrimination, and freedom of association, among others. Second, privacy and data protection. How? We have to develop the data protection impact assessment and publish it, made it public so everybody can read it. Right to transparency, in a sense that we have to be notified about what the personal data have been collected, and what are they going to do with it, and access to our information. Avoiding stigmatization due to suspicious contagion. Accessibility in the sense of possibility to be used by all, regardless of demographics, language, disability, digital literacy, and financial accessibility, because there are many people, like people in jail, homeless people, migrants, that they have a lot of problems in order to access to this technology. And these are the people that have bigger risk of being infected. Education and tutorials to explain how the application works, so it can be understood by everybody in society. In terms of technology, a decentralized protocol, this protocol DP3T, that it was designed in Switzerland, and it is privacy preserving, with interoperability, and using Bluetooth and not GPS, because GPS, of course, it collects location data. They are very sensitive data and doesn't help to trust the application. Data management, data protection and privacy by design. Security, in the sense that user authentication to prevent risk such as access, modification, or disclosure of data, and use unique and pseudo-random identifiers, so we cannot identify anybody. So here in these applications, one of the biggest problems, more than privacy, I think that privacy is very protected, are security issues. App easy to deactivate and remove, either through clear instructions or automatically by sunset clause. Open source code, this is clear, participatory and multidisciplinary development, access to the code. And the last group is governance, where it has to be public ownership and avoid all kind of private initiatives. Data governance should be made public. Downloading the app needs to be voluntary and not by law, mandatory. Sunset clause, legislation and policy. So governments or countries have to approve laws where it is said how to use the application, how not, to avoid discrimination. Incidental findings and dual use policy, purposes beyond contact tracing. So the application has to be used only to detect contagious infection rates, only for that. Design impact assessment and open development process. And the last one, right to contest and demand human intervention. So what we did is we picked 3 different applications. Stop Corona from Austria, like the best one at that moment. The British one as the worst one. I think that it didn't exist anymore, in the sense that the British government is thinking to develop another one. It was a technological fiasco. And Trace Together, the Singapore one. And the 4th spider diagram is about the European Data Protection Board guidelines. So we don't have that much time, and I cannot comment in a deep way our paper, but in the governance column, you can see that there are point number 15, 17, and 19 that are in blue, because none of these criteria are in none of the applications that we picked. So, and all belong to governance, and governance is so critical part of these applications. So, and this is for COVID-19 applications, but if you are a company, organization, a startup, and you want to develop an ethical and social framework, you can start by these main points that we have designed in Transparent Internet. We have designed our own method where you can describe, or you can see, or we have described the data flow in automated decision making and profiling, where you can see that the first point is individual or user needs, the second is data collection, the third is data security, the 4th is automated decision making processes, the 5th is personal profiling, and the 6th is impact in individuals' lives. If you see the numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they correspond to every stage of our method, and the columns that they are underneath, they can take 1 or 2 points of the diagram. So the first one, if you want to develop this ethical and social framework, is ethics of data collection and communication. First of all, you have to ask yourself, which are the technological resources that you have to collect data, and about surveillance. Are you surveillance your users? Are you taking or collecting this data without their consent? Transparency and awareness about observed data. These are browser history, research history, biometric data, geolocation data. It has to be granular explanation. Third-party data. Are you buying data to third parties? And are you misusing the information and data repurposed, in the sense that you have a purpose that you have communicated to your users? Are you using this data for another purpose that is not compatible to this one? So think about it. Failure in data minimization principle, in the sense that collecting more personal data than necessary to achieve the purpose. When you change the terms of service and privacy policy without asking feedback to your users, or lack of control over users' personal data, where there's not any possibility of opting out. Ethics of data processing, so re-identification of individuals or identifications of types of individuals for group discrimination because of age, because of race, because of sexism, etc. Low and poor data quality, so this is one of the reasons why results are discriminating and biased. Storing personal data for repurposing, as I said before, so for another purpose that is not the purpose that you communicate to your users. And failure in compliance principle storage limitation, in the sense that you are storing this information for much more time or once your purpose was fulfilled. Pseudonymization, as the GDPR says, or anonymization and encryption. And then ethics of algorithms, opacity, something that I didn't say before. But I say here is that between the point 3 and the point 4, the problem with access or accessibility to our information is that there are another laws that allow companies to be opaque. I'm talking about the Trade Secret Directive or the IP rights and, of course, proprietary softwares. So to be transparent from the point number 3 or 4 until the point number 6 is an ethical decision of a company. Discrimination and biases when data training sets for algorithms are irrelevant, inaccurate, incomplete, or they just respond to discriminatory biases of organizations. No access to profiling and auditability of algorithms if they are open source. Then and then independent parties can audit algorithms and they can say that they are neutral in the sense that they respect GDPR in this sense and the sectoral law where it is applied. And then these practices inform an explicit consent that is not solved yet. So we have to find the best way of asking this explicit consent and this informed consent. Misuse of personal data, identity theft. This is one of the big dangers in face recognition technology. Privacy invasion due to technology use. Impact on individuals or group of individuals, discriminatory or biased inferences and profiling, and then transparency. What kind of information do you want to or should be made transparent, and to whom should be disclosed? Because you don't have to disclose all the information. You have your secrets and you have to maintain it. And this is all. Thank you so much. So I'm going to stop sharing then the presentation, no? Hello?
Yeah, it's okay. I don't know if we have David or Will, if we have any questions from the audience. We're running a bit out of time. Well, I wanted to ask, looking at the model as a startup, how would you say that is the first step to be a tech startup that is transparent and respects privacy? What would be
it is applying data protection and privacy by design. This is the first thing that you have to take into account, in a sense that you have respect the data minimization principle, as I said, in the sense that you only have to collect data that they are necessary to fulfill your purpose. You have to have very well designed and define your purpose and respect it in all the stages that I have designed in this diagram. We have designed this diagram, and a store limitation purpose. So with these principles that you have, if you apply these principles, you are going to be, of course, much more privacy preserving than if you don't do it.
Thank you.
I think that we have questions through the chat. Maybe it's too general, but I'm not sure if this is applicable to your presentation, Manuela.
I don't know. Let's try.
What about AI ethics? I guess the question is about how does this relate with data privacy and so on.
Yeah, well, what about the AI ethics? In which sense? If it is possible or what?
Not sure, because the question is just what about AI ethics?
Okay, so yeah, well, it's not a bad topic. On the contrary, it is a very good topic, AI ethics. So this is what I work on, some of the work that we do. So there is some. Okay, what we have to say here is something very important. And it's connected with the question that Pablo made to me before, and I have to add to the answer that, first of all, if we want to be an ethical company, something that is very important is the culture of the company, because the culture of the company is one of the reasons why the ethical measures are applied or are not applied. So ethics right now is trend. It's a trend. It's trendy. It's so cool to be ethical, but we don't know how to be ethical, or we are not really interested in being ethical because our culture is kind of very far away of being ethical. So if we want to know if the company is ethical or not, we have to know which is its culture. And how do we know which is a company's culture? We have to see and we have to see which is the company's product. So if we are talking about ethical AI, we can see this company's product. So, for example, Facebook is a machine learning and AI company. So we can see their product. Facebook is so unethical a platform. Google is an unethical platform. But we can see some applications like, for example, Whereby, that's an ethical video call tool that is totally ethical. And you can see their product, how they are privacy preserving. Of DuckDuckGo, this searching tool that is, for example, this another ethical tool. On the other hand, there are many recommendations from the European expert groups of the European Commission, I wanted to say. But in my opinion, they are a little bit naive in a sense that they are okay. These principles are, of course, perfect, but they can they can crush against companies' culture. And not all the principles are going to be that easy for apply. I don't know if this answered the question because it is a little bit general, but what we have to realize is that the first thing that we have to know is that in order to be ethical, a company, their culture has to be ethical first, and then they're going to embrace all these measures. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible.
Okay, thanks. I think that replies in quite detail to a so general question, so thank you.
And on the other hand, I think that maybe what I'm going to say is a little bit polemic. I don't know, but I don't believe very much in the change of cultures in company. I know that this is something that many CEOs are hiring these gurus of these humanizing companies and whatever. But something that is very important is that when you start a company, when you are a startup and you start to hire people that is going to work with you, if you are really ethical by default and by design, you are going to hire everybody, everybody in your company, you're going to hire them from the basis of some values. And everybody's going to not only accept, they're going to agree these values because this is how they are. And the problem with big companies or companies that they already exist is that they were designed or made and people, they were hired by other values and maybe without any values. And change this from the beginning is going to be really, really, really difficult. It's going to take many years. And maybe you have to hire completely new people in order to make this this change inside the companies.
Okay, thank you. Pablo, I think that we are running a bit out of time. There is no time for more questions right now. So I don't know if we should close now because you are managing the time.
Yeah, I think we're squeezing the time as much as possible. Yeah.
I'm sorry that maybe I talked too much.
No.
It was very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Manuela, for joining us, and very, very interesting issue nowadays, taking care of data and privacy, and now this new thing related to AI, thanks to the last question. So thank you very much for joining us, and I think we can close. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.